Hello guys, this is Jones10395, and in this video I will be showing you how to paint your gun, whether it be real airsoft or paintball. All the concepts are going to apply across the board to, like I said, real airsoft or paintball guns. Obviously real guns are probably going to get more rugged paint, but that's up to you. The paint I chose to use is Rust-Oleum camouflage. I used it on my last paint job video, which wasn't very good, which is why I'm going to redo it. The paint colors I chose were brown, OD green, and tan. Tan being my base coat, OD green and brown are going to be the accents, which I'll get to later. My paint job, as you can tell by the thumbnail, is kind of going to be not a paint job, or not a camo that's already out there. It's going to be using foliage from around my area. So if you live somewhere else, obviously grab foliage from your area. Don't go out and try to buy an exotic plant, if you're really inclined to do so. So this is my gun before we're going to paint it. I need to clean it off, and I do need to remove a couple parts, which will be the barrel in here. The nut, it's not a delta ring, but this is a nut for the free float barrel. I need to remove that so I can paint that. And I also have already removed the motor and the actual barrel itself, the tight bore barrel. And I also taped off the magazine well, and you may be able to see in here. I taped off the cylinder head to make sure nothing gets inside of my gearbox. This is an airsoft gun. And that is really all I need to do, especially if you take your barrel out, you need to watch that cylinder head. So I'm going to clean my gun, and then we will start the paint job itself. So here's my suppressor barrel, and over here, of course the doors are open for ventilation, is the receiver and the rail system. Now I'm going to paint the base coat while these are disassembled to make sure everything gets a nice even coat of the tan, and then I'm going to assemble it while it's all still tan, and then I will paint the actual camouflage part onto it. Alright guys, one thing you must make sure you do, if you're like me and you're a perfectionist, for in between coats, I've obviously just done my first coat. You need to flip the fire selector so that it can get everywhere underneath it. You can see there's black all over there. Zoom in for you. There's a place where the spray paint didn't get, and what we need to do is obviously cover that up. The same applies to your iron sights, of course. If they are flip up, if they are your standard iron sights that don't flip up, then this will not apply to you. But if, once again, if they're flip up, you press the button in, flip it down, and then paint the spot that's still black, or whichever color it was before you painted it. And one thing that you must do, so you can get a nice sight picture, is tape over your front post and tape the peepholes of your iron sights. Tape the side that you will look through, so it'll still be black. It doesn't really matter about the other side unless you want to, go right ahead, but I chose not to. So that's another important thing you have to take into account. Okay, so right now I'm going to start painting the camo stripes on the things that will be a little bit concealed, which in this case will be my outer barrel right here. I don't believe you can see it. And then the suppressor, which will be, obviously both of these will be under the free flow rail system just a little bit. So I'm going to do the camo stripes on it right now, and then I'll do the foliage parts later. Now that everything has been painted over, I am going to assemble the gun and we'll start the actual camouflage pattern. But I won't show the assembly because, of course, your gun is probably going to be different than mine, so it's a different case for everybody. So assemble your gun and then we will start the camouflage pattern. So, we are obviously going to do the stripes now, not the actual leaves, but the stripes, and then we'll do the leaves. But one thing is, before you paint your gun, and if you're like me and you never change the setup on your gun, then put everything where you know you're going to have it and you know you're going to want it and keep it for potentially the whole life of the gun, and then spray paint over it. If you know you like to move your accessories around, obviously take them off and don't paint them, or maybe paint them separately. So we will start the stripes now. And this part, by the way, is one place where you can break the rule of staying 8 to 12 inches away. If you're going to get close, like you obviously see I'm doing, do it really fast so you can get a narrow pattern or a wider pattern. I like to tend to keep it a little narrow, relatively of course, but not extremely narrow. So I'm going to do the handle now. This is that brown color, by the way. Okay, one point that I really like to drive home about doing a camouflage pattern, especially when you're including anything natural, is that nature in itself is never ever perfect. So your paint job will never have to be perfect. If you're someone who is an extremely symmetrical person, then you really don't have to do that on the paint job. If you want to, that's fine. But if you don't, if you screw up or something, it doesn't, like I keep saying, it doesn't have to be perfect, because nature is never perfect. Nothing ever naturally occurs perfectly, especially in the plant world or foliage world like we're trying to imitate here. So we're going to let this stripe job dry, and then we will do the layering of the foliage itself. I have another quick side note for you. While your gun is drying, underneath it put something relatively soft so that if it does fall and the string you're using does fail, it'll minimize the damage, if any will occur, but it's just a nice precaution to do while you're waiting for it to dry. Now we're going to start doing the actual foliage camo, the foliage camo layer that is, and I'm going to start off by just showing you a quick thing of how to do it, and then I'll be on my way and start doing the whole gun. So what you're going to need is whichever piece of foliage you choose, and you can get that in camera. I'm going to do a leaf right now. Obviously shake up your can of paint so it doesn't come out wrong. And this is one of the parts where you can use every single part of paint you have. You can bring out the tan again. Obviously we know the tan was the base coat, but you can also put the tan over some dark spots like right here. Of course that's what I'm going to do on the stock right now. So you can use every color in your arsenal that you chose for this paint job. Alright, so I have just pulled it down from where I had it hanging. I did that about probably 40 minutes ago. One, to let the bottom parts dry, and the other is I had to get a little bit on the top. because of course it's kind of hard to spray paint from underneath something. So I did a little bit on the top, and this is the finished product. It is, I would say, like 80% dry. Like, it's dry, you can touch it, but it's one of those dries where you can't touch it for more than like a minute, or else the paint's, you know, it's gonna come off. It's still a tiny bit tacky. So I'm gonna let it dry for quite a while longer. Just gonna zoom in on the paint job for you here, so we can see the awesomeness. So this is it. Obviously, like I keep saying, nature is not perfect. Your paint job doesn't have to be. And one thing I was having a lot of trouble with were the rails. They were, it's kind of hard to get a pattern going on something that's so thin. So I kind of just had to leave it as is. I mean, I had to take my own advice. Nothing in nature is perfect, so I left it. And it looks pretty nice. It flows along well with the gun. Of course, let me know what you guys think. And then obviously close up the ejection port or dust cover, because we don't need to paint anything inside of there. So this is of course the right side, and I will show you the left. It's pretty freaking awesome, if I may say so myself. I really like it. And of course, if you decide to, it will look just as cool. But one of the things that everyone always says is, I don't want to risk screwing up my gun. I just want to keep it as is. Well, once again, wow, it's not focusing. Like I keep saying, nature's not perfect. Your paint job doesn't have to be. And that's also the same way I felt going into my first paint job. By the way, this is literally only my second gun paint job ever. But going into the first one, I was very apprehensive. I was worried I was going to screw it up, and I didn't. It turned out just as well as this guy right here. It is very, very cool. I'm enjoying just looking at it through the viewfinder. So of course this will work for all your paintball, airsoft, and real rifle needs. Even pistols, smaller scale, same concept. Remember to keep your paint can 8 to 12 inches away. Unless you want to get really narrow, then you can get close and you got to do a real quick swipe. And then of course choose foliage from around your area if you choose to do so. If you want to, you can even just leave it with stripes, which was kind of the part 1 of the part 2 of the 2 parts in this paint job. If you remember, we did stripes first and then we did the foliage. You can leave it at stripes if you want to. If you want to paint magazines, go ahead. I choose not to. But if you have any other concerns, comments, or inquiries, then feel free to ask me. Otherwise, thank you very much, and let me know what you think.